Hello. This is Gabe Cymbalista with Cymbalistic Cynicism. Give us one moment. With us today is, hold on, I'm just waiting on them. We all had a hectic day today. Hey there, Edie?
Are you waiting for me?
Yeah, we're waiting for you. And Richard, no, it's all good. I've been there.
Sorry about that.
Hi, everyone. This
I'm
is Edie
here.
Inksetter. Hey, Edie, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Edie. Inksetter.
And Richard?
Are we waiting for Richard too?
Yeah. In the meantime, let's get started with
Okay.
you. So you were in a lot of movies and TV shows, and not only that, you actually starred with another Saw actor years ago. No, from the Saw movies years ago, and I know you were in we know you're in Spiral, but you were in another show with one of the other stars of Darren's
Are we
Saw.
talking about Lyric?
Yes, Lyric. I'm bringing up the photo of you, the two of you here.
Yeah.
What was it? Was
That
called?
was
Yeah.
that was my first big job after coming back from having kids.
Really?
And it was a series regular on a CBC show here in Canada called Shoot the Messenger. And Lyric and I played partners. Yeah, that was a very good time.
Yeah, and that's one of the first. I think that was the first things I've ever seen him in that he was clean shaven. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Oh, really? I don't know
know.
him not clean shaven. Isn't that funny?
It's funny because that's always what I recognize him from like the original Saws. Hey, Richard. Everyone, this is Richard. Hey. So I'm gonna sort of jump around a little bit, but can you both hear me? All right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There you are.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool,
There.
cool. So I'm gonna get started with the obvious. I hope you don't mind. The two of you working together in Spiral from the Book of Saw, the 9th Saw film. Here's a photo of the two of you with Chris Rock. And obviously I assume both of you knew who he was prior. No joke. No. Obviously. I'm trying to think how to ask you this, but did you when you were told you were going to be working with Chris Rock, what did you expect? Did you think it was going to be something more humorous? And what was your impression at first? And then what was it the same when you got started working with him during production or pre-production?
Yeah, I mean, when I auditioned, I didn't even know what it was for because it was under the title Organ Donor. Then when I found out it was a Saw movie, I was excited. And of course, I know Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson, Max Minghella, Edie Inksetter. Jesus, what an incredible cast.
It's
and no, I didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I knew of Chris Rock from his performances, his stand-up, but because he's also executive producer, he's got to wear that hat as well. So he wasn't super jokey, but he wasn't super serious either. He was very approachable, nice guy, really. Intimidating at first because you can't help but be like, shit, that's Chris Rock in the room,
I hear that. How about you, Edie?
No, I found the same. He was he wasn't overly serious, but he was serious. He wanted to make a good movie and he wanted to do a good job. So, you sort of think you're going to go on and he's going to be joking all the time. And he had a sense of humor, but he wasn't sort of holding forth as the life of the party or anything.
But I loved seeing that he was also, in a sense, with Darren in the director's chair to some extent, which was like, I know he did some directing, did he not? Or he was sort of like...
I don't know if he did directing or not.
No, maybe it wasn't directing. Maybe he had some influence, like Chris, like, I think Darren talked about how he had ideas that really caught Darren, like actually Darren said helped improve the movie.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
and he was on the creative side for sure. I think he came to them with the idea of the show, so he would have definitely had some strong opinions there. But I wasn't really privy to those conversations between him and Darren. So, but I have no doubt he had a lot of ideas.
Yeah, he said something interesting in one of his interviews. He said he also didn't micromanage. You know what I mean? Like he would let every department do their thing. He said he didn't even want to know about the traps at all. He's like, you guys are experts at that. You know it. You've been doing it for a long time. You do your thing. I'm going to stay away from that. And apparently he did sprinkle ideas in the script, some comedic ideas, some of which were used, some of which weren't. And it was, I think it was an interesting blend of that kind of Seven vibe with some cop humor, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like was it 48 Hours?
Yeah, kind of like that.
I think Darren told a story that a while back there was a scene where him and Max Minghella walk into the church and to talk to Pete, Chris's old partner. And originally they were going to shoot that in the basement of the church, but Chris said, I think the lighting, the light, the just the aura of the church gave it just had a better look, and it actually wound up being one of the most cryptic shots in the trailer. Interestingly,
That was gorgeous.
Yeah, that was like,
we were on set once, and he was playing a scene with Richard, and Richard said whatever it was Richard had to say, and Chris looked at me and went, "He's fucking good." I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So he was definitely fun on set, but.
I know. Sorry.
It was great working with Chris as an actor, because when he puts that hat on, that's his hat. You know, he can when he has to be the boss, he can be the boss. When he's in the acting mode, he relates to other actors as straight up, I'm just another actor. Let's just work, you know?
Yeah. I hear he's a real stand-up guy, no pun intended. So what's it called? No, but there was another scene, but it was like you, right after you and Chris had like you and Richard had a head-to-head at that very beginning, after you found out you all found out Boz was dead, Boz's character, and Marissa Nichols, who's now the chief, gives him the role, lets him head the investigation. And I heard that whole thing was like, some of you mad, some of you are mad this, and some of you are mad I'm that. And then he added the line, some of you are mad I effed your mother. And apparently I heard that line was added by Chris, and Darren's like cracking up, I think, something behind the camera, and like that just added so much to the scene. Well, it was serious, but you're able to laugh at a serious scene.
Did that make the movie, that line?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If we shot that scene 10 times, he said something different every time.
Yeah.
He would always throw something like that in.
Oh, right. You guys didn't really have a premiere because it was during the peak of COVID.
I know.
Around the time.
Yeah. What happened? We were delayed.
You were delayed a year.
It didn't hit the big screens here at all.
We were delayed a year. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was the trailer initially came out. Hold on a second. Yeah, my friend Kat says, "Oof." And this is Joe Ridgely, our network head. But yeah, it was really originally the teaser trailer was leaked in February of 2020, right before COVID.
Yeah,
hit heavy, and it was supposed to be released that May of 2021, and they announced, I think it was in April, that it was going to be delayed a year. And as upset as I was, but I think that was the first Saw film or one of the first that didn't have a blood drive, or I think they all did except for that one, and that didn't have really a premiere. The only one that didn't have a pub, but you guys saw it afterwards?
Yeah, we couldn't even watch it in Canada at first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know it. There in Europe, I know people were waiting months later to even. Yeah, it was people who were like, no spoilers. Yeah,
I guess we bought it on, I don't know what network it was, but we bought it as soon as we could, but it was months after it to come out.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I really wanted to see it on a big screen, because I remember even doing the ADR, and the voice guy, the ADR guy was bragging about how great this is going to sound,
right? And
I really missed out on the big screen experience. I think that would have been pretty impressive.
There's certain movies I have to see on a big screen.
Sure.
I think the only Saw I didn't see in theaters on the big screen until like it was released in the 10th anniversary was the first film, but all the other ones I caught on the big screen,
including this one.
Yep, it was the first movie I went to after, and it was the same day they first announced we don't have to wear masks masks, but the theater, it was that same day, so the theater still held that, but it was a packed theater still. It was still a packed theater. Like, regardless, I mean, it was yeah.
And what's the demographic you feel on a film like this? Was it filled with really young people or people that are getting older that are still fans? Or?
It was both. It was all. Like, can I say something? The Saw franchise is a very broad demographic, and like Tobin Bell would even talk about how skateboarders would come up to him, and this was years ago, telling like, "Oh, the movie teaches us less. Like, and you'd ask them, what does it teach you? Like, valuing your life, your loved ones, appreciating and they would go into it with him. It speaks to many demographics, many audiences, and of different ages, different, and it has left a long-lasting effect.
It's also been around for how long? Like, when did the first one come out?
The first one came out, it was 2004.
Right. So it's been almost 20 years.
Oh yeah, it's going to be 19.
All those loyal fans are, they're 20 years older than they were when they first saw it.
Well, it's interesting because Spiral had the best. Well, I think of all the films, the best cinematography, some of the top notch, and I love all the films. Like, but I think some of the best cinematography and acting and all that stuff was probably was the ninth one. It also had the biggest cast. I mean, in terms of the A-listers. It had the biggest, and even Darren said, what was it? Darren had made some good points about it, but he also he has a certain taste of the color palette shown on camera. Like he has a specific preference, and he would talk about that. Like he felt like 5 through 7, and then 8 didn't have that color palette that his had. In a sense, and I realized when he brought back 9, you get more of that green tint and certain tints,
the greens and blues, yeah.
Like, what was it?
Hot. I mean, it was supposed to be hot, but it also was in fact hot.
Yeah.
So they kept adding sweat to us, but we were already sweaty. So the whole thing is just like dark and blue and green and hot and sweaty.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you say that because I have a few shots of Richard when he was. Just spoiler to anybody squeamish, just look away for a moment.
Oh, this is what I closed my eyes for this part of the movie, Richard.
Oh, so maybe you want to look away. This was Richard. I remember we talked about you talked about he's still got to. Did he send you the middle finger yet?
No, I wish he would. Yeah, because when I tuned into your podcast and Darren was on it. Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
and then when he said that he had kept the fingers, I was like, "That's too cool." I wish I'd kept one at least.
Wait, Edie, you finished watching it, right? The clip I had with the video I had with Darren, the interview. Richard, he went in the middle of our conversations. Like Darren's like, "Hold on," and he has all these props in the drawers, like all, and he would go and then he found the fingers, and then he came on screen and
fingers. That's awesome.
But that picture is so gnarly, and apparently. To get the rating,
see the blue tint, that tint, but also the moonlight, like not just like obviously Darren said, oh, it's so bright. It's a very brightly lit movie because yes, it's Saw, but it has the most scenes during a beautiful outside day because it really is shining a light on an actual issue. And then what's it called? And even the scene where Richard's in the trap, the moonlight. Right on his, not just the lights that this copycat set up, but the moonlight right on Richard's trap. It was just the shot, the silhouette was just beautiful. Darren always had a thing for that, like in Saw 4 or Donnie Wahlberg and Costas Mandylor sitting and the green thing with the fan, and they're like black silhouette with all the lights off, and then all the lights shoot on, and that's Darren's thing, And Chris Rock said he just loves the way Darren shoots. Yeah. That's one of the reasons. Yeah. And Chris was actually on it before Darren was.
Oh, well, no, I didn't know. Well, he brought it to them, so I guess he would have been.
Yeah, that's what I think got him on. And then I was like, we'll never get Samuel Jackson. And the next day, got Samuel Jackson.
Yeah. That's so crazy. I didn't get to work with him, but Richard did.
Yeah. Well,
that was crazy because the first day I got to work with Samuel Jackson was the scene where his son's been shot, comes to the alley, pulls out his gun, says, if I find out who betrayed my son, I'm going to shoot that MFer. And so I'd worked out this whole thing with the stunt guy, the stand-in.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to turn away, which exposes my guilt. He says, oh man, it was you, Fitch. He grabs the back of my head, slams me against this water tower. I have to bang my head off it. Now, they had put some sort of foam, but it was more like a soft rubber, and I have to hit my head off that thing, fall to my knees. He has to spin me around, pistol whip me, and I fall to the ground, and it's going to be a one shot. Now, Samuel Jackson is not here for rehearsal. So I'm working out with the stunt guy. Samuel Jackson shows up just before we start shooting.
He's allowed to do that. He's Samuel M. motherfucker Jackson.
He can do whatever he wants.
He's the man. I get it. He's the man. But having said that, I haven't worked it out with Samuel. You know what I mean? And then I hear from the background, yeah, we'll just shoot the rehearsal. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean shoot the rehearsal? We haven't even tried it once. So I take this as an opportunity to go, screw it. I'm just gonna go up to the man. So I make my way right up to Samuel Jackson. He's got his people around him. I say, Mr. Jackson, hi, I'm Richard Zeppieri. We're going to be working together. Do you understand what we're doing here? Because apparently we're going to be shooting the rehearsal. Yeah, I got it all figured out, man. I'm like, okay. I said, okay, are we doing it at 100% first take? Yeah, man, let's just do it. Let's do it. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. I said, are you going to be using a rubber gun or a real gun? He's like, no, man, we'll do the real thing, man. So now I'm thinking he's got a real, like a million things could go wrong here. If he just clips me with a real gun or a fake real gun, it's going to hurt, man. But like a true pro, he just did it. He did slam my head and he gave me a little extra effort. I felt it. Went down, spun me around, missed my chin by a couple of inches, and the shot turned out all right. But
was that it? You did one take?
No, I think we did it twice, but that was it. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
But they probably used the first one.
Probably. Yeah. And I remember at the end, just the only thing I had said to him I just said, Mr. Jackson, thanks for not killing me, man.
I also like how they set that up, like, oh, he has a scar, but is that supposed to be significant or not? And then you realize everybody realized how you got the scar.
Yeah.
But like, not a lot of people can say they not just got beat up in a movie, but called Motherfucker by Samuel Jackson. Like that's like something you put on like your was it your reel or
it was on your CV or something somewhere.
Yeah,
man, that just gave me street cred. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I knew I wasn't going to work with him, so I went and took a picture of his photo that was hanging in the police station.
Yeah,
that's the closest I was going to get.
Yeah.
I had the 4 or 5 days he was in town. I had off work.
Darren had some crazy stories about Sam on set. But also you, Edie, I never watched Handmaid's Tale. It's too real life horror for me. You know what I mean? It's like for me, like there's
good show, eh?
No, I know. I have a lot of friends who watch it. It's not even before this whole thing with Congress. I like it's too. I don't know. It just feels too dark. Like
I didn't watch it till lockdown. I watched it
really
in I think it was like after Christmas. It was in January of 2020, and I watched the 3 available seasons in like a week.
Mm-hmm. And
then when we got back on set for season 4, I mentioned that to Elizabeth Moss, and she was a bit like, "Are you okay?" But it was just so good, I couldn't stop. Like, besides being in it, it's just such a good show.
You recently finished filming season 5, or that was?
We have finished filming season 5 now, and I don't know when season 6 starts, but that will be the last one. Most people.
Oh, all right. Wow.
But yeah, Max and I never worked together on that show.
Oh, you didn't?
And we were actually at the craft table on Spiral, and he said, "You look familiar," and I said, "Well, I'm in your show." So I mean, if you see both characters, you don't look any like in Handmaid's Tale. My hair is in a tight little bun, and
right?
Well,
I have a couple of shots I found.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this one I think was when you were threatened by somebody.
Just a little threatened there.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, there was a shot looked like
that was my first day on set.
That was your first day on set, really?
Yeah, like 6
They also found another shot, but he couldn't see you. It's like a Last Supper looking shot, like a big table of a bunch of women.
Yeah,
so, but obviously it was very pixelated, so I couldn't make you out. But maybe
I don't have it. Well, there's the 3 of us in the middle. Well, it's with Aunt Lydia in the middle. That when
you're one of the aunts, I think.
I am one of the aunts. Yes, I'm beside Aunt Lydia. When I read the script, it said the ants were dining, and I had this image of this round table, and I walked on set and saw what Lizzie was directing that episode and saw what she had decided to do. And she just went closer, and ended on Lydia. And we did that shot 2 times, maybe 4. 2's a better story though. And we were done in half an hour, and it was just so brilliant.
That's great.
So brilliant. I love that. I love that scene so much.
You said Lizzie, you mean Elizabeth Moss? Also,
Elizabeth Moss.
She also directed the show in addition to.
She's directed the last 4 or 5 episodes I've done.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And you've been in it since the beginning? Have you not?
Yes, I've been in every season. Yeah.
That's just a great thing to, I love that.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I didn't know that I would last all 5 seasons when I booked it. So
that's good. It's so funny because both of you have either acted with actors from previous films or friends or co-stars. It's almost like, forget 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. I mean, Edie, you've worked with Tony Napo, who I know, who's also from Saw 2 and 4.
Yeah.
I think he told me he never watched 4. Now he's in the Disney Zombies TV show.
Yes.
But he's done a lot. Murder at 1600.
That was from the same TV show as Lyric.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh,
that's Shoot the Messenger. That's the same show.
So interesting. And I misplaced the photo, but Richard, you worked with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Who is also a very old friend of Costas. Mandalore, who plays Hoffman in Saw. Yeah, Costas was telling me on the cruise about stories about Mickey and asked him, why didn't you do Expendables? I don't know if I could say this story. So, maybe I don't know. I'll keep my quiet about it because I don't remember if I'm allowed to say this story about. Yeah.
Trouble. Halfway through a story, Mike.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. Well, Costas is much more laid back, but I just to play it safe. Not that he would ever hurt me. He loves me too much. But yeah, Richard, hopefully Darren will be able to release or Josh Stolberg will be able to release the Stolberg cut, so we could get all the tendrils and everything of whatever popping that Darren spoke about on the show. Because he said it was like 45. The original cut was 45 minutes longer. Like he said,
the whole movie
of Spiral. He said the original. That's how much Darren had to cut out. He said of all the Saw films, the MPAA, he had to edit. That they cracked down on, he had to re-edit the 9th film the most.
Oh my god!
Wow.
And
because I know that he said that at least 2 minutes of the finger trap, which seems like an eternity to me.
Yeah,
had to be cut, and I would have been curious to see that. Not for the extra gore, because we shot that over 2 days, and I think I was like 2 days.
How much of this do we need? Yeah,
27 hours. Either in the makeup chair or in the trap to shoot that scene, and then to hear the 2 minutes were taken out, kind of
it still had an effect. It still had an effect.
Sure.
I'll tell you that.
Sure.
It's and also not only but Darren would talk about. Well, I think you watched the episode. In there's other Saw films he did. There's a lot of transitions from set to set. I don't know if you've watched his other Saw films, both of you, or. Yeah, so this, like they built sets next to each other. There's a scene where Lyric takes one of the Saw trap victims and she's trying to attack him per part of her game, and they go through a bedroom mirror right into police precinct. Or there's a lot of and then there's the crime scene into Dina Meyer's bathroom. Like it was like different beautifully transitioned shots made through a set. And Darren would talk about how that whole scene between Max and Chris at the end, where they're going back to talk about how they got there, there's tons of those aesthetical scenes where the sets merge.
Yeah.
And Darren made a good point and he understood why they want to cut it out. It was less about, it took away from the impact of the story. It was more about the aesthetics of the transition than it was relevant to the story. Yeah. But he said it was 45 minutes longer, the original cut. Now, I invited them to watch. I don't know if they're available, Edie, but here's a shot of you with Jen and Sylvia on the set of Rabid.
Yeah. I love those ladies.
Same. They're two of my I'm their biggest fan, and they're two of my biggest fans, and they're amazing.
None of that surprises me. Yeah, they're really special people.
Yeah. So, how many days did you get to work with? And you've worked with them besides other films than Rabid, or
No, I haven't. I mean, we've sort of. I mean, I was going to say we've talked about it. We haven't sat down and had coffee and talked about it, but pops up in social media. Oh, we have to do that again. I only had 2 days with them, I think. It might have been 3.
But they you'll be friends with them in like a snap of a second. They're two of the friendliest souls.
I walked into the audition and it was the friendliest table in the world. They're hi, so happy to have you there. And I had heard applause when other actors were leaving, and I was like, holy crap, they must have been really good. But no, they were just. I mean, yes, they probably were good, but it was just they were so supportive. So yeah, applause after your audition and hugs in the room and everything. They just love what they're doing so much that it just radiates to everyone. They're really special.
That's great. No, I love that. I love, and and Richard, you were in, and this is a show I know so many people who watched. I never watched it, but I know there are a lot of actors from it transitioned to the show. One of my number one favorite show of all time, Hannibal, Brian Fuller's. But you were in Suits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the shortest I've ever seen your hair, and I know in Kill Shot you had shorter hair, but not that short. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that was. It's funny because that was like the first season of Suits, and
that was the first season.
Yeah, and I didn't. I was so relaxed because I didn't know what it was going to become. I didn't know that Suits was going to be Suits. You know, it was going to be huge. I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, question. So that scene well, you had a couple of scenes, a few scenes with Mickey Rourke in Kill Shot.
Yeah.
One of them was over the phone, so I know those things are usually you don't really have the conversation that's done. That's just edited together. But you had a scene where, like, I think you could have killed him, but then he blackmailed you. Yeah. And that's a great cast. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Diane Lane. Did you get to? Was there any footage shot with them that you got to work with any of them outside of what was shown in the final cut?
Or... No. Everything that I shot made the final cut. But
nice.
The phone call. It wasn't Mickey on the other end. It was actually the director, Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen directed?
No, not Michael Madsen. Director of Shakespeare in Love. I can't look it up right now, but something like that.
Now I'm curious.
Yeah, look it up.
You are looking it up, aren't you?
I need to give the right shout out.
Yeah.
Madden. No.
Here, Kill Shot 2008. Right. Hold on one second. John Madden. Yes.
John Madden.
John Madden. Yeah.
And who's a British
Thomas
director.
Jane was right.
So he was playing Mickey's part during the phone call. But that scene where he's going to blackmail me, we'd shot that scene a year and a half before. That was a reshoot.
Really?
And so the first time we shot it was in a restaurant. The powers that be weren't happy with it. A year and a half later, they called me up, say, yeah, we got to reshoot that scene. And then we reshot it, as opposed to a restaurant, we shot it right on Lake Ontario. It was a freezing day.
Yeah.
And between
beautiful.
Takes, the set. Yeah, and between takes, me and Mickey Rourke would hang out in the limo. And he would just tell me great stories from the past, you know.
Yeah, he seems like, from what Costas would say, Mickey seems like a really chill and just a really chill guy. Somebody I like to meet.
Yeah, he's totally cool. Totally cool.
Now, this is a shot of you, Richard, and I don't know from where because it looks familiar, and I'm trying to place it.
I think that's the thing called, I think it lasted one season. I think it was called American Gothic.
Yes, American Gothic.
I think.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know why it only lasted once. Like, there's like Netflix always, and I found out why Netflix does that, but I'm saying so many great shows were canceled too soon.
Yeah.
American Gothic was one of them. I mean, this was before Netflix had this whole canceling binge, but apparently it's not even just apparently the way they measure these things. A lot of these studios is not necessarily how the viewership and how much of that overwhelming viewership watches till the end of a season. Which is, I heard that's the factor that basically affects all these Netflix shows. It's not about how many the viewership or levels, but the how many of them view till the end. So they take into account both those factors, and I'm sure other things too. But unfortunately, like, and then they don't even give a chance to people. Like, for example, Bullet Train. It came out in theaters, gave mixed reviews. Fans either loved it or hated it. Then it came out on Netflix, and people are blowing it up. Like, oh, this is amazing. I should have. And it's one of those films that's best seen in theaters. So you know what? Sometimes people don't discover something right away, and then another season comes out and it really picks up. And Hannibal was one of those shows. Season 2 was like one of the top rated. It beat all the other shows in 2014. But unfortunately, that just happens sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
With great shows. And, okay, I have to... Now, I know you played 2 different roles in each film, Edie. I believe this was the first one. This was the first one?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's the first one.
Yeah.
That was maybe the most.
Speaking of your hair, I didn't recognize you. I didn't realize that was you. I had to look it up. Like, that's Edie?
No, I know nobody does. Nobody does. What Barbara said, Barbara Machete said to me, oh, I can't remember who she said I looked like. Oh, darn. Anyway.
Is it the woman, what's her name? Sherry, the one who did Lamb Chop? Is that who she was thinking of, or no?
I think that's who the character sort of styled after, but that's not who she said I look. It was like Sally Field or something.
I see.
With the hair. That was really fun. And I was invited to the table read for it, to read all the small characters. And the day after the table read, I had been asked to be a reader at auditions for that role. And while I was driving home from the table read, I got a call saying your session tomorrow is canceled because they're offering you the part. So I didn't audition for that role. I don't know how you would audition for that role, because it sure is. What's on the screen is not what was on the page.
Really?
Yeah, Andy was great. He was off camera. I don't know how they do it for sound, but he would just yell things at me. He would go, "Okay, now roll your eyes in the back of your head," and I would go, "I can't."
Oh, they want you to go, almost like transition you to a clown.
He was just throwing things at me to try, but it's actually really hard to roll your eyes into the back of your head on command. And then he said, "Make a face like you're trapped inside your own body and you want to get out." And I think that's the one that made the final cut.
Interesting.
Anyway, it was real, and they killed them all too. He said, "Start chanting that." Like that was just off the cuff on the day. So.
And you weren't scared of Bill Skarsgård sitting dressed as a clown right behind you? I guess all the kids sitting.
So I worked as a reader on it, and I was invited to be the reader for Bill Skarsgård's screen test for Pennywise.
Oh God.
And yeah, so Andy was behind me, and I was reading the Georgie scene. Andy was behind me, and there was a spotlight, and I was standing in the dark, and he comes out in like makeup and everything done, and he's fully focused because this is it. And I'm reading the Georgie. That was actually the most terrifying. I was reading the Georgie scene.
Wait, was he in makeup or?
Oh yeah, he was full on Pennywise, and it was the first time I'd seen it. And it was pretty close to what it ended up being.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was probably the scary. I wasn't scared of him by the time he got, and he's so good with the kids.
Yeah, I heard that.
He would come out and make sure they weren't scared. And there were so many kids on set that day that he had already sort of shown his card, so we knew he wasn't scary.
Yeah, I met all those kids at least once, except for Finn. And I don't know if you saw, I met Bill Skarsgård once. He did a premiere for a movie he did with what's her name? I always forget her name. It was with Kyra Sedgwick, but it was called Villains.
I don't know.
But I met him at that. But like the kids are great. But the kid who plays Georgie, Jackson Robert Scott, he gets in and out of character like that. But also he did the whole "You'll Float 2" for all the fans, and I couldn't film it. But I was in the middle of like talking to Billy Zane, so I didn't want to be rude, so I missed filming it. But I heard after I flew back to New York from the Dallas event where I first met him, in the middle of the panel, he just went up in the middle and started doing the Pennywise dance in the middle of the panel. Like he's adorable, but he's scary.
He's scary. He's in that. He's doing Lock and Key now, I think.
Yeah, and he actually did. Oh yeah, I have to catch up on it. But he was also in a movie with another one of the Saw actors from Jigsaw, the 8th Saw, called The Prodigy, and she was his birth mother. And that, I think his roles had me more scared than in It, because he was convincingly creepy. Like he's very believable, is what makes him a great actor. And even as young as he is, it's scary how good he is at it.
Yeah, he's great.
You know. So,
and then the second movie, my character was supposed to be in the second movie, and that scene got cut.
Right, I was trying to place it because I know they said you were in the second movie.
I am in the second movie.
They cut that scene.
But they cut the scene. I think I know which scene it was.
So you with the kid? Like you were angry?
It ended up happening. No, there was a nurse watching TV in the hospital when I'm forgetting the character's name escapes from the. And I thought maybe I was on that TV because I was on all the TVs throughout the first movie. Anytime there was a TV on, it was me. So then the other role that Andy just talked another part. You can't see me. You barely see me.
Right, but I'm just because I saw your name on it said shouting kid's mom. Maybe that's.
I'm just at the baseball game. My kid's yelling at one of the baseball players. Yeah, that's I drag him away. Yeah, you don't really see me. It was just sort of because my other part got cut and he was.
It's funny
on set to come.
It's funny you say that though, because I know Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Kane Hodder, who played Jason in the Jason movies, played Leatherface in one scene in that movie, and they never really gave him credit for it. Oh. And then in Freddy vs. Jason, it's like on the TV, and it happens to be the scene that Kane's portray. So Kane, though he didn't play Jason in Freddy vs. Jason, he played Leatherface on the TV that you could barely see in the background.
That's so it's like that's what I thought watching for that.
People spot the most
they do
fine things, but when you'll with Saw fans, those are them in a nutshell. Like as soon as the trailer comes out, people are theorizing. Like I would talk on the phone with my friend for like 45 minutes an hour, theorizing about what can play out. And what some of the things is because we're thinking of like, oh, it's taking place in different timelines, because you see Sam Jackson with this 80s or 70s whatever stash, and then you see him, in modern times. So it's almost like maybe it's showing different, just how Saw has never been linear necessarily. You see, I felt like almost like it would take place before, during, and after different movies. Almost like showing Sam Jackson and the other characters being like threads throughout the franchise. I think that would have been cool too. Yeah. But I thought that because also corrupt cops, people are jumping to conclusions about, oh, it's in response to something. I'm like, corrupt cops have been an element of the Saw franchise since Saw 2, since 2005. It has always been an element of the Saw franchise. This just, the copycat is targeting an entire precinct as opposed to individual police officers or detectives in specific situations regarding certain crimes and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting seeing that jump from specific officers to an entire department. And it also sort of explains, like Spiral explains the whole why so many of the cops got away with stuff back in the earlier Saw films, because it makes sense, because maybe that 15 years prior with what Pete was talking about and Max was talking about, the Article Article 8, that could explain like why Hoffman got away with killing somebody he could have apprehended, or Donnie Wahlberg got away with planting evidence for so long, his character. So it explains a lot, and a lot of fans overlook that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that fans see, and there's a lot of things fans overlook. That's like any franchise. And also, Darren would talk about, like, I love when Darren talks about continuity, and I never ask him about blood continuity because I know he talked about that.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's talking about Saw and a random jump scare. That was actually perfect timing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you jump?
Yeah, I did. Well, you'll rewatch this. You'll rewatch this back.
Yeah, I peed myself a little bit. Just a little bit.
I'm so sorry. Oh, darn. I should have my mute on when I'm not.
No, that was fine. It's all good. Also, well, let's get back to the interview. Edie, you also worked with another Casey Collins. Didn't you work on another, or you were in another show that he was in? But you both worked with him in Spiral.
Yeah.
But I saw him on credits of another show you did.
Casey was also in Shoot the Messenger that I worked on with Eric. I've actually known Casey for years, and we're pretty tight. Not that we see each other all the time, but that we just sort of have each other's backs. And he shot a sort of an independent short recently and asked me to be in it. So that's the last time I saw him. But yeah, no, Casey's a great person.
It's always nice to work with people you know again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
he's such a good actor.
You knew Richard prior to Spiral? Did you guys know each other prior?
Only because we're both in the business. Like, I knew who Richard was, and I had a huge respect for how talented he is, but I had never got to work with him before. So I was really happy when I found out who my partner was.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, I remember, Edie, I remember when you came up to me because I was auditioning for something. We ran into each other. I was down in the studio, not studio. I was casting for something. Right. And then you just came up to me and said, in a whisper, you're like, "We're going to be partners." I was like, "Oh shit, snap, right on."
Yeah.
Because I knew I got the part, but I didn't know who my partner was going to be. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Well, they have to do a prequel or something so we can have more fun together.
Sure, absolutely.
Well,
I killed my partner.
You're talking about Spiral. You're talking about Spiral. Oh, well, I know Darren talked about how there were other deaths and other traps, but I'd love to. Well, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, they bring back characters in flashbacks who've died. They've brought back Oren Coles' character. They brought back the characters from Saw 1, from several from Saw 2. They can even have you in flashbacks because they always do that, not just with Jigsaw and the apprentices, but they're constantly bringing back characters in flashbacks who already died and showing their connection to other characters such as Jigsaw and other people throughout the franchise. And I love that because it's intricate with intricate traps, but these stories so intricate, and I love that. And yeah, and also I'd love to see both of you return, but also I'd love to see the two stories bridge, meaning the Spiral timeline along with the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
And I think Darren did a great job. He really did. Yeah. And he took his old style, his Saw style, incorporated into something new. Not old. I'm like, he took all his passions, what he loves to put in Saw, and made something new with that. And it's not easy to create, do that. Also, I also have a couple of shots of you here. This is you. I think this was the scene where Chris was yelling at you guys. You should sort of like have like stank face on. I know what you call it. like
every time I see a still from that show, I'm like, wow, yeah, I was happy.
Well, you guys, it was hot.
It was really hot.
It wasn't. But also, by the way, Richard, you talked about your experience with Sam Jackson the first day.
Yeah.
And how, you go up to him, like, oh yeah, you're gonna smash my face, like. And Marissa Nichols, I think she said this is the same thing she did with Chris, like, hi, nice to meet you, and I'm supposed to yell at you, and go total bitch on you today, and that's what she. So that's like the first scene she shoots with him is her yelling at him. It's like just an interesting way to start your production together. You know what I mean?
What was really cool was the first. I remember I had a wardrobe call, and Darren wanted me to meet with him in his office. So I went to his office, and I remember it just being dark, but he had a bunch of candles out. I thought, okay, this is pretty zen. And so I didn't know what he wanted me to meet about. And then he finally just said, hey, let's talk about this a bit. And he said, you know what your character is? Your character basically survives on cigarettes, coffee, and booze. And that just informed my whole performance. I was like, man, that just gives me the freedom to just be disheveled, unshaven. And it even informed how certain scenes played out. Like a scene between Edie and I when we walk into the pawn shop and we're looking at a video surveillance on a computer. And I recognize Benny writes.
Yeah.
So another line is simply Benny writes.
The way you said it is exactly how you said it in the movie, but right now.
Yeah. It's like Benny writes, right? It's like, I know that fucker, like it's like we have history because just based on the simple words that Darren had told me, I was like, not only is my character a cop, but I think he understands the underbelly of that world well enough that he feels comfortable in that world. Like Benny and him have probably had drinks together, And it also informed even how I walk into the warehouse where I'm looking for Benny. I walk in there calmly as if I've been there a million times. Maybe not always as a cop, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me a backstory, which was interesting.
Even the way you walked up to the bed, like, "Hey, Benny, get up!" Like it's like sort of like, "Hey,
Yeah.
hey bro, get up!" You know,
Hey, bro,
it's like so casual.
Yeah.
It's I love that. Like, you literally, Darren says like a sentence to you, but that's also like a gift, like
Yeah,
that you
sure.
could be told that, and you already know how your character is going to be, you know, perform, like who your character is, but not just, oh, like he has, like, it's basically you tell you, just amazing. Like, you could basically create a whole character just with those details. That's a gift.
Well, he
It really
gave
is a
me
gift.
what he was it wasn't like some cliche where, yeah, you're a cop who drinks coffee and eats donuts.
Right.
What he did was he just gave me the freedom to to say, I get you, man. I'm gonna go with that. And he just let me go with it. You know what I mean? And but I had created a backstory, but
Mhm.
which is never addressed in the script, but it did inform. All it did was inform the scenes, which was a gift. Yeah.
It's almost like one of those cooking game shows. You get a bunch of recipes, you don't,
Yeah.
but you just pour them in. It becomes something
Sure.
other, and that's great. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Edie. Oh, I also some other. I know I didn't bring up everything, but so Handmaid's. Hold on a second, because I know there's so much to talk about, and with both you, and I'm all over the place. Oh, so I have to catch up because I am currently. I really, because I'm a huge Hannibal fan. I told you, and the show is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So I decided to watch Clarice, and I'm behind on it. And I actually haven't gotten to your character yet, but I assume she's being Krendler. She's first of all, I want to thank, if he's watching, you got to send this to him. Thank you, Michael Kudlitz, for sharing this on your Instagram story. I just wanted to give you a shout out to thank you for that. I assume you play his wife in the story.
I do. Yeah, they didn't put it on IMDb till I appeared because it was supposed to be a surprise. But I guess now that it's aired for a few years, yes, I play his wife.
Yeah.
It was a nice gig.
Yeah, I never met the guy, but I met people who work with him. He seems like such a cool guy, but he's so good at being like a tough guy, but also having a heart. Yeah. Like, you could even see, and Krendler, from Where the Beat Silence of the Lambs, though his role in the movie was small, and Ray Liotta played him in Hannibal, and you could tell he came off as a douchebag, Ray Liotta's Krendler, but you could see like a conflict of both spite, but also heart in Michael's Krendler, which I love.
Yeah, I love
because
it too.
It's good to have a character who's conflicted, like almost like Chris Rock in Saw. Like he's conflicted, but but he has no choice because with what he lives with. But Krendler, I just love when a character isn't all bad, all good, because they're conflicted, and even if their character's agenda is supposed to be wholesome and like true for the sake of justice, but them as a person is somebody who's just like headstrong. He seems headstrong, but has heart as well.
One of my favorite things about that show was all of the characters were flawed or damaged, including my own. It was really sad there was no second season because there were so many places that I was hoping that they were going to let me go with that. And it was, if it went to streaming, you get more time in the episodes to play with all of that. But I just love that. Like Clarice herself is, it's a year after the events of Silence of the Lambs, so she's carrying all of that. And I loved that about that show. Nobody was just that guy or that guy. Like everybody had so many layers to them.
That's great. No, I love TV shows with characters who are broken characters make the best characters.
Yes.
I think that's also why Hoffman in Saw carried Costas' character Hoffman, because he was like as an apprentice, he was like Amanda too. Like Shawnee's character Amanda was conflicted. Like she wanted to be his predecessor, but she was still struggling with her own inner demons, and then and after her and Jigsaw died, it revealed that Hoffman was his conflict within Jigsaw's legacy carried on the franchise, really. And actually, I just want to bring up the Jigsaw blogs. Says, hey guys, Richard and Eddie, you both were great in Spiral. Love to see you guys come back in sequel TV series. Same, because there was been rumors about a Saw TV series, which would have been sawsome. And he also, and Jigsaw also says, P.S. Richard, I was able to use the Fitch character in my Saw fan YouTube series, the Jigsaw blog. Check us out, and Gabe, keep up the good work here. So yeah, I'll try to get you those clips. There's a lot of fan made stuff, and there's a lot of fan made movies and clips for Saw on YouTube. It's a whole massive fan base. But also,
you know what got me through the when it wasn't released,
Spiral
because of the pandemic. What got me through that year until it was released was I was watching a whole bunch of, and then afterwards, what was great for me was watching the Saw fans' reaction. You know, all those reaction videos.
I love those things. Yeah, I used to
get enough of those.
Oh, I have to look those up. Are they on YouTube?
YouTube. I just binge watched. So you watch like people watching the film, and you watch their reaction, and it's.
Oh, I know what they are. I just haven't seen them. I haven't have teenagers, so I know what they are, but I haven't seen them for the Saw fans.
Some of them are pretty good. Like I don't know if Gabe, you probably know these guys. You know, I think her handle is Mama Geeky or Tessa.
So some of them I know, but there's one specific one I really enjoy that I follow, and she's not even a fan of horror. Her handle is little funny gal reacts.
Okay.
And I'll send you the exact, but I never used to be big on these reaction videos, but hers got me really into the Saw ones.
Yeah.
But I think also she does this thing where she does an intro, whether she wanted to watch it or people told her she should check it out, or like she does like an intro, and then she does a follow up at the end and how it made her feel. And she doesn't even like gore. And but people said the first Saw film had an ending, like and then she ended up watching all of them, including Spiral, like all 9 of them over the course. And she's still catching up on TV, but she does it for the fans, TV shows and movies. I think the director of The Expanse just commented on her thing about The Expanse, which she geeked out about. But her stuff, because she got emotional in some of the Saws, which I love, especially somebody who's not a horror fan. It's not even a horror, psychological thriller. But like she still she could not watch certain scenes in Saw, not because it was gory, because of who the character was. Like there are a lot of there are a lot of fans that just develop a love for certain characters in anything. But there's a lot of female Saw fans. I know some from America and overseas in Europe who are like Amanda's character became like they love her. They love Shawnee because they related to her character, her broken character. Like broken characters don't just make a good story. They connect with the fans. And I love that. I love when a piece of art, cinema, TV, really you could connect with. And that's what Saw has done for a lot of people and saved lives even in those ways. Yeah. And the reaction videos I love. Like some of them are better than others, but some of them are just, I mean, like Kevin Smith did a reaction video to the series finale, the season 2 finale of Star Wars: The Mandalorian. And he was hysterical. I was crying. Like there are some people you would watch kids film their father watching it who raised them on Star Wars, and their father, who's like, I don't know, 78, was like, and crying. Yeah. It was just a beautiful thing. And I never got into that before, but when you mentioned it, yeah, it's something.
I know. I think for me more and more, it's I mean, doing the work is fine. Getting the positive reinforcement is fine, but it's not until I see an audience's reaction that's the moment. That's really what I do it for, right? Without sounding
no, I totally get it. Listen, Leigh Whannell and James Wan put everything into making the first Saw.
Yeah.
And Leigh said the moment where at the end of the first one, everybody was so blown away that they stood up and they could not speak and their jaws dropped. He'll never forget that. He said that's his ideal moment, his key moment in his life, because that was his baby. That was him and James Wan's baby.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think my 16-year-old was 14 when we watched Spiral, and she was losing it at the glass trap. Just is he going to get a mummy? Is he going to help him? She's just so devastated by that death.
It's funny. There's like, Twitter has these polls that people do. Oh, which is, and people said, which Saw trap was you in Spiral do you think would be the worst to be in? And I was caught between the glass trap and the wax trap.
Yeah.
Because the wax trap
is in your own spine.
Can I tell you something? I usually don't cringe at a lot of the Saw films. There were just a few traps throughout the franchise. Just a few traps I've cringed in. Spiral was the first film. It also, because of the way Darren shoots, like the lighting is just, but it's also Max's, the Jigsaw Killer's, the copycat killers, traps in this were makeshift. And everything was like it was engineered from like makeshift stuff. He's not an official engineer like Jigsaw and his apprentices, like who were trained by him. So, but the stuff is almost like barbaric in that sense because of that. And I think of all the films, Spiral had me cringing the most. I'll be honest. Like I think, well, Rich, your trap did have me cringing, but I think it was. The ones that really had me was Mirasol's trap, the wax trap, and the glass one. I think those traps really, and I think the first one with Boz was really, but I saw like the clip of that on like they released it on YouTube prior, but obviously it was more graphic, But I would love to see the full cut, but I'm afraid like I'll actually cringe at a movie I've seen a billion times, and for the first time since I've seen it, one of the first times since I've seen it in theaters. So, but I'm looking forward to. I really hope Darren would really love to release that cut.
Yeah,
that would be a fun thing to see. But then again, it could if they bring back they do a sequel or a can merge the film stories. It would be cool to see those. It would be also contradictory because you filmed other characters' deaths, so they would.
It's not me.
I know. Oh, I know. But like there were.
Everybody asked. I get all these PMs on Instagram and stuff going. Is it you? Are you the one who died?
But Darren did say Casey was.
It was Casey. Yeah.
Casey. Yeah. But that brings an opportunity to come back, and as long as you've not, as long as you've not been killed off. By that meaning, not just not killed off, but your death wasn't shown. Rule is in horror films or films in general, if your death wasn't shown and you're rumored to be dead, means you're usually not dead. Dr. Gordon, even Hoffman, So I really would love to see that. And yeah, that, and also not just before the movie, but fans are. You look at the fan clubs and the theories that fans release, and like. I mean, I do it, but like I try to avoid those because I like to think of things myself. But I literally be walking to shul on Shabbos, like synagogue, and be thinking of, or like a friend's house, and like, what this could, or I'd be rewatching a clip from one of the movies. Like I just, what that could work, like putting things together in ways that could create a sequel. I literally have a whole idea, like myself, for like merging the storylines and making a final film that could bring back all the characters, but fans do this all the time.
I know. I said something in an interview, and then there was a chat on Reddit about what I said, and that I don't know how I said it, but they heard it wrong. They thought I said something completely different. I was reading it, going, "What did I say?" But yeah, they totally took it and were like, "She must have meant that this happened." Or there was a whole conversation. I was like, "Wow." I don't know what I said,
but really, but I'll say, Richard, they can bring you back because that whole Article 8 thing, and how it connects to and explains how there were so much corrupt cops and so much of that corruption and people getting away with it throughout the course of the franchise. Main characters from apprentices to subjects, Jigsaw subjects. Really does open, and that's the Saw universe. It's very expansive, so that almost opens up a whole other door, creating the possibility to bring back characters that are already dead, even in the new Saws, to connections to characters in the old Saws. I think there was rumor that they were going to bring in Danny Glover in flashbacks for Spiral, I believe. Wow. I think the rumors. I don't know if Josh Stolberg said it, but that would have been cool. People are.
And you think Spiral and Saw can somehow merge?
The original
Do
storyline.
you feel that Spiral was a standalone, like a separate entity, or?
Let's look at it this way, like, and I think they were talking the people, I think the screenwriters, directors talking about like or the producers, I don't remember who it was, but they wanted there was like a Sorrel verse, and even Darren said like the like all these of the new film said it doesn't disregard the other films. It's not writing off sequels. And Jigsaw was a sequel, but a semi-reboot. Spiral is a straight-up spin-off. So almost like a Marvel verse. Right. I think if they could do a Sorrel verse at the same time, I think there are so many ways to merge it. Like I've already thought of ways, or other fans I'm sure thought of ways, but that whole corrupt cop scenario that connects to the earlier sequels creates a whole other approach to merging those storylines. Because it explains stuff like Jigsaw. There are things in Jigsaw that if fans actually stopped and think about it, even the things a lot of fans didn't like, it would explain stuff from past films. Same thing with Spiral. There are certain details that can explain, even though it's a spinoff, there's no returning characters, it does create possibility for explanations. And Darren did say in the interview that you tuned into, Richard, with me, that he mentioned, it's a good point. He said, not just horror, films in general. There is so much filmed that people usually say, oh, it's got, fans say, oh, it's continuity error, that doesn't make sense. And there are plot holes. There's usually so much film that doesn't make the final cut that explains those plot holes, and the fans complain about it, but it can only have such a long, like Darren said, I think usually Saw films aren't beyond 100 minutes. I think Saw 3 was the only one that surpassed 100 minutes. The first one was 100 minutes. Saw 3 was 105 minutes, I think the longest cut, I believe. But it was more than that. And, there would be so much, it would be such a longer film, but that's what's great about Saw, and is that it's so intricate that you could go back and you could revisit these plot holes that could have more significance than people realize. Like that whole, the Donnie Wahlberg being a corrupt cop and the corrupt precinct, and even Agent Strahm, played by Scott Patterson in Saw 4 and 5, called out your corrupt precinct. Like he called Hoffman's precinct out for being corrupt, and like nobody, and they're trying to write off that Jigsaw is dead, almost like in Clarice. Like they want Clarice to just tell her to say what they want her to say. So, oh, it's a serial killer. Oh, we've got him. It's over. That's what the whole precinct in Saw 5 was basically writing off. Oh, Jigsaw, it's done. Jigsaw's dead. We're done. And then all of a sudden you realize, everybody's going to realize, oh, it's not over. So that corrupt cop thing is explained in Spiral, not directly, but when you think about it, it does. So every Saw sequel can introduce stuff that could open up more doors and add to the storyline, which is what I love. One of the many things I love about the Saw franchise. And I think Sean E. Smith said that one line in Saw 1, he helped birth the sequels, this Saw 2 and 3 at least. And that's what's great about it. So to answer your long story short, to answer your question, Richard, yes, I think there are many, and there could be even more ways that we could think about that can merge Spiral with the franchise. And I think about that all the time when I'm watching a Saw film, which I do every day or every other day, at least, or a clip from it. Those films save my life. Those films really. There's cinema does something that just is music that a lot of that other things can't do. Like this, I never had a favorite film until I watched the first Saw. I had a favorite, a horror slasher franchise. I ever heard zombie film. Never had one favorite film. Saw was the first.
Wow.
And as it grew and expanded, there were things in those franchises that helped me deal with a lot of difficult times in my life. And it's funny because I told Darren, like when in Saw 2 helped me deal with my grandmother was dying of Alzheimer's, and Darren said like his parents had cancer around that time, so it was personable for him. Luckily they're okay, and they still are. But like it speaks to it doesn't just touch the fan, connect with the people involved, it connects with the fans. And there's some, and I'll send you the article. I think Darren posted it once. This guy who suffered from terrible diseases, including cancer, all these things since he was young, wrote a whole article that was published and about how the Saw film saved his life and got him through some of the hardest times in his life he didn't think he was going to live through. and it did the same for me. And a lot of people can't look past the gore and the
Mhm.
creepy doll and all that stuff, but it, that's, and I love the films, and the whole philosophy, and there's even Judaic reference, that things that I realize connect to Judaism, that Jigsaw, like when Jigsaw talks about the whole pig, in Saw 8 about the pig, why the pigs are compassionate animals. It's also, he wanted his son be born in the year of the pig, and then his son was unborn, his son was killed, and that's why, he wears the pig mask. And then he says in Jigsaw that, the pig doesn't reacts to even human suffering. It acts emotional when it realizes a human is suffering, which could explain also why pigs aren't kosher, or that comes to me. It also, he in Saw 4, there was a scene that I don't think was ever done being edited, where Jigsaw puts one of his Buddha statues that usually sit around his sick bed or his sick room or sick table on his son's grave. And in Judaism, we do something that goes back forever, like where we put a rock on the grave of a loved one. And it's just all his but also his stuff, like the rosaries, like all the philosophical and religious elements to his character that have not just influenced characters in the franchise, but the fans on such a deep and personable and emotional level. It's such a beautiful thing. And I love, and I'll send you those articles. I'll send you some videos and some of the things fans have edited, fan-made tributes with footage from the films. I'm going to send them your way. There are certain channels on YouTube, some of the best edits, and some of them are actually emotional. Like some of them even have me crying. There's one of them is when I posted it before, but I'll send you some of this stuff, some of the best tributes. And YouTube is full of these things, but there's specific ones that are great. But it just, fans of the franchise see something in the films that a lot of people can't. And I'm one of those fans that a lot of people never understood it. People mess with me about it. I've had a lot of shitty dealings with people, and the Saw franchise got me through a lot when I was facing a difficult time in my life. I mentioned to Shawnee, I mentioned to Costas, how the Saw franchise, and even Darren, the Saw franchise saved my life in a lot of ways. I think also to Tobin once. But I met Tobin a bunch of times, but I mentioned it to him, and it's, those films are something special that a lot of people can see. So I love whenever a sequel is announced, I turn into a little kid in a candy store. I geek out, and I jump up and down like a little kid.
Well, hopefully there'll be another one. Oh, well, there's when does
Saw 10 comes out in this October?
This October?
This October. So hopefully, with that success, we'll get 11, and we'll see you guys come back in 2024.
Saw 11, aka Spiral 2.
Yeah, actually, Saw 10 is right now. It's just called Saw 10. No code name, no the organ donor. But yeah, I'm very excited, as I say.
Excited.
So so please, just the last thing is, if there's anything, I know we're going a little over an hour. Is there anything else you want to talk about? And also, I am going to end with asking you guys to give any socials or any movies or any upcoming projects you guys have. Obviously, I'm going to ask you to bring up A Handmaid's Tale, Edie. But please, if there's anything else, please, whoever one of you wants to go first. If you want to say anything.
I'm good.
What's coming up?
Yeah.
Anything coming up that you can talk about.
Oh, well, I mean, Bed Rest with Melissa Barrera.
Mm-hmm.
That's
you're Melissa?
Tubi.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It was right before she went. It's right before we shot. Right before Scream 5 came out.
Wow.
And she was on her way to do 6, and it's the same producers as Scream 6. So I was like trying to work my magic. But, yeah, we shot in Winnipeg, and nice. I don't know if you ever are on her Instagram, but you see her little dogs. We got to dog sit them for about a week because didn't have mine with us. So that's on Tubi right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's
out. I gotta check that
out. And yeah, I never know how much I'm allowed to say. I've
I don't want to throw you under the bus.
A couple series that'll be out soon, and then I'm starting something new next month.
Just quick thing, I forgot to show the photo of you as Krendler with the shortest you've ever had your hair that I've.
They cut it for the
I had to find another shot because that looked just mid-laugh. I'm like, I don't know if I want to show this shot, but I couldn't find another one that was good quality on Google in time.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
I showed up on set with hair about to here, and she said, "Can I trim it?" And I said, "Sure." And I
They
got
just
in her
trim
chair
it.
and she said, "Did I say trim?" So
My father
I
says them
thought I
all
had
the time.
wrapped Handmaids for the year. So I said, okay. And I got home from set and I had a message from my agent saying, your bookable days for Handmaids next week are the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And I was like, I think we have to tell them I cut my hair. So I had to send them a photo of my haircut and get it approved so I could go back on set. They worked magic, put a bun in my head.
You didn't finish filming season 6 yet, right?
We haven't started 6 yet. I'm not
started.
sure when we would. I just saw something in the news that Elizabeth's over in England shooting a new series.
Okay.
And Maddie, who plays the handmaid with the patch, is playing Sally Bowles on London's West End right now.
Nice.
Yeah, so nobody's available at the moment, apparently.
One I just gotta mention is funny because Leigh Whannell did when the creators of Saw, he directed Invisible Man, which Michelle Moss starred in. Oh, Elizabeth Moss starred in.
Yes.
So it's like again, like the less than 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in a circle. Like
do you know that
Handmaid's Tale
at one point? Oh, I can't remember the story. You know what? We're over time and I can't remember the story, but it has to do with me being 1 degree from Kevin Bacon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I was Jon Stewart's degree from Kevin Bacon.
He actually filmed the show The Following in my school. The one day, it's always the day I was on my film internship, was when they had a celebrity on campus, and he basically took over the science building to film in his director's chair, filming The Following. And my friend bumped into him in the doorway and looks at him and says, "You're Kevin Bacon?" He's like, "Yeah." That's basically the only story I heard about him. But yeah, that's basically what I heard. Yeah. Richard?
There's a couple things. I mean, there's a film I did last year that's in post-production right now that I can't talk about.
Okay.
And then a voice thing for like a video game that I signed an NDA for. So
yeah, I get that.
All these things, like you're always constantly, like, everybody's so secretive about everything.
Yeah,
like,
you
can't. I get it.
I never post anything till it's been out for a year, and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All those Saw pictures I had backstage, I thought if I what are they called? It's not a stage. Anyway. Yeah, I saved those till it had been out for a year. I thought people are going to be zooming in on them and they're going to find something.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't sign an NDA for Spiral though.
No,
really?
No.
It was understood, obviously.
It just kind of was a secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
Open secret. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I know Donnie Wahlberg had to be super quiet about Saw 3 and Saw 4. So yeah, listen, guys, it's been great. I will send you those links as promised. I can't wait to find out more. Like, I can't wait to learn about your upcoming projects. I hope to see you guys in Saw 11 or whatever they decide to call it. And I got Edie. I hope you get to work with the Soskas again. I don't know if they got to tune in or not, but I will send them this interview. And hopefully you and I and the Soskas will all meet up one day, because the three of us are
convention somewhere.
Yes, because Soskas and I, we're birthday twinplets. Their birthday is birthdays are the same weekend. So yeah, and let's close up, and I'll keep you guys on afterwards because I feel like we're dragging on. But thank you everybody for joining.
Thanks, Gabe. Thanks,
Richard, Edie, of course.
Bye,
Don't cut out. Just stick with me for another minute after I end the broadcast. Okay, guys? Thanks, everyone. Have a great